Hey there, welcome back, Maris here, and today Farthest Frontier, industry buildings. 5 points you need to know, so you better know the placement and everything. I'll try to be short as always, but I'm explaining more and more so you get all the information. So let's jump right in the game, and those 5 things I will give you right away. Location, desirability, housing, resources, and storage. There will be bonus for the patient ones at the end, but one by one. As you can see, I have set up, let's launch so they run around, but this is my industry location, and reason for that is, well, we need to start with location. By location, there are only 2 things in general that you cannot change in the game. One of them is where the water is, because some of the industries require a lot of water. And second one is fertility. And bear with me, we are talking about industry, but industry also includes brewery and also includes making food. So we're talking a little bit food as well, where the and flax. So you need agriculture for industry as well. So in this sense, just from the location perspective, here are tannery. Let me open this up. That requires 2 pieces of water and 1 pelt. It makes really valuable coat. So water is, well, if you have it, it's everywhere. It's easy. So basically it converts 1 pelt into 1 hide coat. In terms of money, that's a huge boost. That's it. Nothing else. Never-ending resource, absolutely huge money maker, right? But you need to have water. So if and when you are thinking about placement of your industry, let's say area, for example, this is my second one, keep in mind that you will need some water. Not only for, there was also for breaking bread and also for brewery. I'm just clicking around buildings looking what was what. So those keep in mind, so location from that perspective. And brewery is perfect example of where fertility is also needs to be accounted. Well, I'm playing on unfertile land, so for me it wasn't such a problem. But why? Because brewery requires a lot of water and a lot of grain, right? So grain is also something, if you need to deliver it from totally other side of the map, well, that would be a problem. So fertility, take a look. If they are close by, that's a perfect spot so you can have your industry set up, right? That's location perspective. Next thing is I need to bring up a thing that is desirability. And this is the trickery where it will be mind-blowing a little bit, but half of the buildings reduce and are doing bad for desirability. But if you pay close attention, I'll show you in the background where it is. Let's open resources. For example, there are 2 examples actually that the same building that requires for your industries actually increases desirability. Look at the little green thing, that desirability. So yeah, it is going upwards. When you upgrade, it is upgrading even more. So that thing is the best to be placed between your industry part and your housing. Or, well, how I place it, basically, as you can see, I'm surrounding my housing areas, and obviously, yeah, you see, these work as separators, as middlemen, right? Because they ease off the negative impact from desirability. So that is one building, and another building is under the food bakery. Bakery is something that your people enjoy a lot, so placing it somewhere close will have more benefits from desirability perspective, like boost for your buildings. But there's a downside, because I think I have one in the middle. That's how I have planned. So I have water right next to it, but the problem starts where I need firewood is not a problem, but floor is made right here in the windmill. And if you take a look what windmill does, well, I need to mouse over, it reduces desirability by a lot. And that is mostly for most of the industry buildings in general. So you can't have them near your housing, right? That's where the desirability comes in play. But take a look. Don't think that everything is like that. I will just scroll down through. So firewood splitter, yes, no one likes it. Sawmill, no one's likes it. The tannery I mentioned previously, also no one likes. But look what happens with, for example, shoemaker. No issue. You can literally place, if you please, right next to your buildings. So I need to now basically move on to the third point, which is housing. You need to place them, well, you will benefit the most if your any industry building is as close as possible to your housing. Bear with me. Idea and how and why it works is simple. Your people, when they need to seek for shelter in the winter, will come and go back, well, seek for shelter. Yes, there is an option to build a temporary shelter. I honestly don't see any reason, only if you're playing at other side of the map, some, I don't know, gold ore or whatnot, but I don't see reason why would you place them down, because they gonna need to stock those shelters with food anyways. And stacking means they are going after food, bringing it back, dumping in the house, and then going to work. Exact same thing if that would be a normal house. And the repairs and everything, especially we are talking about planning near it, right? When you have extra somewhere far away, yes, those shelters make sense. But here, the closer you have any, for example, this clover shop is perfect example. I know that this doesn't decrease desirability, and it is basically right next to the building. So when this guy, well, both of them need to get to the shelter, they just run out, hide whatever is their house. When the winter is over, come back. So little to no spend time. As you can see, we'll get to this graph at the end, but this is where the housing kicks in. And desirability, yeah, well, a little bit back to the point too, is take a look at each individual building. For example, the same pottery, absolutely no one cares that if you live next to it. Weaver building, I don't care, they good. So basically, all around could be sorted and placed the buildings, well, if I had space, of course, but no desirability penalty there. So that's good. And the third point, as I already explained, is you will benefit the most if you have right next to the living quarters. They can easily stock the food, get the food, everything is right next to, so traveling is least of the problem. But, and moving on to the point number 4, is resources. Resources is where everything gets tricky. Basically, there is no much knowledge or tricks how to and what to do, but last but not least, the point is not even the last one, the resources, right? Remember how I mentioned that water, obviously, if you have water right somewhere near, then you will have the buildings, that's good. Then grain I have right next to. There is more that I need. Also honey, I also need firewood. So for firewood is created, so I need the splitter somewhere. Yes, here splitter needs logs. So basically the chain of items that you need, and the more you progress in industry, in the tiers, will basically go back. It always starts with logs, then firewood is used to make, I don't know, the iron, from iron or irons, those steel bars, and then the same is used, it all adds up, and they all play by the same rules: location, desirability, housing, they all will benefit the most if they are close to the housing. And then the resources, the less time is spent between the resources, the better. That's why as I started the video, I said this is my industry hub. And by hub I mean, let's take the absolute first building, the same splitter, right? It is right next to the living quarters, right? The living area. So anyone working here will be really close. That's the check. Location, I have farm, well, quite close, but that's, yeah, water was more important for me. So water is there, that's another. Desirability. As you can see, I have placed some buildings that don't reduce desirability, quite close next to the building, housing, no problem. And for example, such a heavy heaters as brickyard or sawmill are further away, so desirability, as bad as it is there, doesn't impact housing. So another, all three hits, housing, and the fourth, resources, because this splitter workshop provides firewood. And for example, here is the soap shop, which requires herbs, firewood. So firewood is right next to, and tallow. Yeah, tallow is brought from barn, which is also here, which is near where I need to get food for cows from the field. So you see, basically everything. The more you can pack everything together, keeping in mind that where you can get grain, flax, greens, and water, then the rest of that can be delivered, right? If you are wondering, wait, you are playing on the hard, yeah, this is the hardest difficulty, so where do you get the herbs? Yes, this is important thing. Thank you for asking. The fifth point is storage. So resources and storage goes together, but think like this. Whenever you bring up the building menu and you see, for example, this, so resources are those three that are required. So you need bring in resources, and storage is where you will store it. For example, soap is the end result that must be stored in storehouse, where previous items, for example, firewood, let's switch to this. Firewood requires logs. For logs you need stockyard, so two different buildings. And if we bring back the soap, I don't have herbs. Herbs I get from where? Yes, the merchant, the trading center. So those three buildings, if you pay close attention, are in this is my first and most important industry hub where I started. I have a stockyard upgraded. I have warehouse for rest of the items that to bring in the half baked, okay? That's how I will call them, because these are produced materials and raw materials, right? These are stock here, so they will provide whatever is brought here for buildings, for your industries around. Then when they are usable items or created, the final items, the same soap, the baskets and whatnot, they are stored in here for your people to use and bring to your markets. But as important as it is, right next to I have trading center, because not only whenever you let's say buy clay or herbs, in my case, or actually both of them, they need to be distributed. So whenever I purchase them, my resource output, the resource will come from this part, from this building. So they need to be near to industries that require them. For example, perfect example, I am buying clay because there's no clay in the hardest difficulty. So yes, that's why brickyard is here. So that guy can bring clay right from here. And if you're wondering about the coal, yeah, coal is another story, or it's further away. So this all comes together, why and how these industry hubs make absolute sense. I actually expand. Oh yeah, here, yes. I thought I was doing something wrong, but no. coal is right next here. So these guys, as you can see, they are working 70% of time. Transferring goods, only 20%. I don't know actually why everything should be right next to you. So, eliminating everything I'm talking about this graph. So those 5: location, desirability, housing, resources, and storage, where the end result will put. It all comes together, and now quickly I will discuss and show some showcase, and then will be the huge bonus tip. Let me bring up this for example. Why such hubs and how it makes sense. You see, whenever you open a building, there are 4, actually 5. Not currently I have 4. The 5th one is fighting. So first is basic needs. All the people, if you click on them, they are running around with food in their pockets. Whenever food is over, they are getting the food. If some of the buildings, for example, I know the fishermen, they stock the food inside their working house. So they basically from fishing come back, pick up more food. When the food is over, they're going back to the home and bringing some food. Not the home, but actually it's whatever is closest, the warehouse, the market, whatnot, and bring more food. That's how they operate. These guys, I believe, as you don't see any food in here, see, there's no in storage. They will go home and eat the basic needs and get the food from the home. So the further they are going to get food there. Then working time. This is the one bar that you want the highest. Well, I have 81%, that's pretty high. Then 9% is whenever they're transferring goods, it counts both ways, bringing in items and bringing out items. So if that is high, this bar, you need to take a look. Either they need to bring resources in from far away, or there is no near where they can store it. That's could be another thing. And then idle, of course, you don't want to be any percent. This usually comes, for example, when you make a brewery and there is no grain enough, right? There is, in the middle of winter, they already process all the grain, or the windmill, and they're like, there's nothing to do. Or there's all trees are cut down, they're like, nothing I can do. It works, and let me find some bad example if I can. Unfortunately, I have stuck everything. Yeah, these guys, yes. Brewery. As you can see, half of the time they are literally sitting idle. One thing, if you haven't built any new extra tips and tricks, if you haven't brought any more fields and you are not expecting huge grain income, what you can do, actually, this is pretty best thing to do, not only the placement, but half of the time they are idle. They are 6 people working. So if you reduce their amount by half, it means the same items they're processing now quite fast and then sitting idle will be processed slowly, keeping in mind the grain is not processed faster by these guys. There's always competition in between them because they both require grain, but you get the concept. These guys actually also see there was one guy and it was already idle, so there was actually no point adding one more. I don't have as much grain, simple as that. So what it comes down, and there is one more, this bar. Whenever you are being attacked, these buildings that are outside, they most likely will get attacked. So placing them inside, for example, this is bad example because this guy doesn't work. I don't have any rats, so that's a lazy guy. But for example, this is perfect case where 71% these poor bakers have to bring firewood, flour, and water, then make a little bit bread. By a little bit, I mean 6%. Then again, they are bringing back food because the source of resources and storage where to put them are far away. And well, this bakery here is for desirability boost, so tough life, you know. Let me see if this works better. Similar case. They're pretty far away from the floor and everything. So this is regarding all those 5 points. Last but not least, I will drop the bomb. Huge, the biggest mistake I made. You actually already noticed maybe by my misclick. It is less regarding industries, but they are heavily impacted. This one living quarter you see here, this one quite further away, and this one even further away. The thing is, this game currently don't have this AI possibility to switch houses. So what you noticed already previously, my miller, that here is the windmill, this guy came from this square, so he lives there. So it is the furthest possible location where to live, and there's nothing I can do about it. There is no, in the games, it's introduced later, usually by some updates, whatnot, where inhabitants can switch housing. So for example, this Aldred would definitely benefit if he switched housing and start living here. And probably some of these guys, I don't know, seeking food, stocking market, some of them most likely work in totally other side of the town. So this is something I thought it will be cool, you know, separate living quarters. I have actually two these industrial quarters, and actually the third is somewhere here in between. No, the game can't handle this separation. You will, I am literally paying the highest possible price whenever the winter is over or when the winter is coming. Oh boy, the huge amount they spend just by walking to the shelter and back, and nothing I can do about it. There is no way. So when you're planning, when you're building your industry, the location, desirability is all cool and good, but please take in account, do not split your living quarters. So when you have one big, or I would stock all these three together like in one piece, then at least right next to placing my industry block would reduce the time, because I can control what's the furthest my worker should walk, right? But currently, as good as I am planning, taking account the housing thing, for example, I will show you the example. This clobber, right? I can place it next to, no desirability. There's hunters next to it. I will have full perfect location. Once it built, I have no control if the worker that will start working here will live across the street, or the worker from this building will say, oh, there's a free space, I'm gonna work there. And that totally, absolutely destroys any and every layout, tip, trick, anything, honestly. Anyways, yeah. So about the industries, you know everything, where to look. It's still, there is no one rule or one thing to get them all right. You still will need to look for your desirability, where your people live, where what resources you are operating is, because not everything is in one place. For example, processing grain to cows, milk, cheese, and in parallel flour, bakery, and all that. These all industries can be placed in one location, quite close, with the buildings boosting the desirability close to the house, and these reducing like barns and mills further away. And then next to it, because for baking you need firewood, then baking firewood somewhere in between, and then at the other side other buildings that require firewood. So the closer you pack everything together, and by everything I mean everything that includes the housing, the most you will benefit, the most you will get out of the villagers, not just walking around. And the only thing I will just point out and say, there are some exceptions like work camp, and I'd say fisherman and hunter. And if you have fertile land where forager makes sense, because in this land there's nothing to pick, those are the buildings you just place wherever it's in between housing and where the resources together. So that's that. All right. I will shut up. I think the most is covered. In all the videos I will try to link other tips and tricks videos for the housing layout and food and all that. It's all in one huge further frontier playlist anyways, so you feel free to browse around. If you have some questions, any questions, let me know. Currently we are still waiting for game to be developed. Once they introduce the logic how these inhabitants switch houses, this last problematic tip would be solved, and I would be happily living with a really efficient town. Alright guys, we'll meet in other videos. Cheers.